Now, we have different clinical scenarios that are associated with the condition of hydrocephalus. Now, we have these patients who are suffering from an increased pressure increased pressure that is building up in the ventricles, and that is basically giving rise to the swelling or the bulging of the ventricles. But still, we can subclassify this particular condition depending upon the particular traits that we usually observe for these particular patients. So over here, the major types of the hydrocephalus, must know that there are four major categories for the hydrocephalus. Starting off from, we have the communicating hydrocephalus first of all. And when I say or when I use this word of communicating hydrocephalus, that means that it's basically there is no problem with the communication between the ventricles. The lateral ventricles, the foraminas are all open, the tumorous conditions are not present. So what might be the pathology in these particular patients? The pathology basically starts off in the absorption, and there is some sort of a disruption in the arachnoid granulations that are basically projecting into the superior sagittal sinus, and there is a disruption in this particular absorption. It can be some sort of infectious states. For instance, it can be the arachnoiditis, it can be the meningitis, viral encephalitis. All of these conditions can give rise to the inflammation in the subarachnoid space, and it can basically result in a condition of communicating hydrocephalus over here. So this is again going to be one of the clinical types of the hydrocephalus. Now, moving on, we have the non-communicating hydrocephalus. And over here, you must know that the difference between the communicating and the non-communicating hydrocephalus is basically in the non-communicating hydrocephalus, there is some sort of a disruption in the communicating pathways. Either the lateral or the third ventricle are not communicating properly due to some sort of a hemorrhage, infectious states, or a tumorous condition, or either there is some sort of an aqueductal stenosis that is taking place, either due to a glioma or ependymoma that are taking place. And this gives rise to the stenosis of the aqueduct of Sylvius, and this is the most prone position in which the non-communicating hydrocephalus takes place due to this particular reason of ependymomas that take place in the aqueduct of Sylvius, and that is basically going to give rise to a back pressure in the third ventricle and as well as in the lateral ventricles. And even you can see over here that there is the enlargement of the lateral ventricles that is noted down in the even on the radiographic imaging techniques of the CT scans and MRIs. We can evaluate that there is an enlargement of the ventricles noted down due to that particular back pressure in this particular type. Now, we have the miscellaneous types. For instance, we have the hydrocephalus ex vacuo, and a certain vacuum that is created or that is building up is basically going to cause the pressure on the ventricles or on the subarachnoid spaces, and that is going to in turn basically give rise to an increase in the intracranial pressure. So this can be one of the reasons for the development of the hydrocephalic condition. Now, there is another condition which is known as a normal pressure hydrocephalus. Now, NPH is basically a condition which usually occur in adults, and usually the age range is more than 55 years. The triad of symptoms that is usually observed with the normal pressure hydrocephalus is the dementia, first of all. The urinary incontinence is associated with the normal pressure hydrocephalus. And then we have these patients who also exhibit the gait apraxia. So this is a particular triad that is usually observed in these patients. And clinically, when you have the CT scans and MRIs at your hand, there is going to be a dilatation of the ventricles also observed. But the normal pressure is going to be maintained in these patients, in these older aged individuals. Multiple causative factors can be responsible for the development of this condition, and specifically, it can be the atrophy of the brain, which is basically responsible for this particular development of the NPH in these particular patients.